Okay, now let us proceed with the clapping nonsense.
Ceremonial clapping.
Ceremonial clapping. 1, 2. Dear Brother, with Alex and Mark, is brought to you by absolutely no one. I wonder if we're ever going to be able to clap together. All right, you try. You start.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, clap. That one worked?
Yes, for me it worked. Okay, you try again.
That was far worse, I felt. 1, 2, 3, clap.
Okay. That to me that one worked out the best. The first and the second, or the
weird.
first and the third. Okay, good enough.
If you say so.
I mean, what are we gonna do? I'm gonna sit here and clap the whole time.
I mean, we can make for an awful show.
All right.
All right.
Well, I suppose now it's prudent to do what we claimed we were going to do. And so I am going to, sort of try a bit of an intro into what it is that we're about to do. In the meantime, maybe, or shortly thereafter, let's actually find a thing.
All right. Where are you finding your thing?
Well, I've just gone to Google News. And so we'll start off with... So welcome to today's podcast. Alex and I have decided that we are going to do something called News Roulette. The idea here is that we open some sort of internet machine news provider, and we attempt to select from random headlines a news story that strikes our fancy, which we will then discuss in some detail or not. We're going to see how this goes. It could be horribly depressing. It could be terribly interesting. There's no way to know. Currently, I am looking at Google News, the main page of Google News, and the only way I can think to do this is to just scroll and stop, and then not look at what I just stopped on, and then see where my mouse is hovering on.
Oh, God.
And it appears. And the article of the day is, Roseanne cast left the C word on Julia Louis-Dreyfus's car over petty drama. Brought to us by Showbiz Cheat Sheet.
Well, it's a hell of a start.
I mean, shall I click on it?
No.
No, it sounds terrible. Okay, let's
Yeah.
try this again. Random scrolling and stop. And somehow I have ended up... I've ended up on a Tesla article.
That could be interesting.
Tesla's $25,000 electric car means game over for gas and oil. Brought to us by Forbes. That could be an interesting topic.
Let's do it.
Well, all right, let's start off with a little bit of background. About 3 or 4 days ago, today we're recording this, it is September 27th. And about 3 or 4 days ago, Tesla had their Battery Day presentation, which revealed some new battery manufacturing processes, which promised to increase the available kilowatt hour, which would then translate to additional range, but also decrease manufacturing costs on the side of making battery cells. So what that translates to is a potentially $25,000 all electric Tesla. And so this article brought to us by Forbes. So let's read the headline again. Tesla's $25,000 electric car means game over for gas and oil. I'd like to start off by saying that is some mighty hyperbole.
Why do you say that?
Well, without reading anything more, Tesla does not have a $25,000 electric car. They are saying that they could in a few years if this system that they're proposing works. And the assumption made that even if they had a $25,000 electric car would mean that it's game over for gas and oil would completely omit the fact that gas and oil operate in many, many sectors, not just transportation. So it's a sensational headline in my opinion.
Well, that's what headlines are designed to do, aren't they? They're supposed to attract the reader and give them something to be excited about and read.
I suppose, but I also believe that a headline should get you interested in reading the article without bullshitting you. and I'm pretty sure this is a bullshit headline. This is, under normal circumstances, this is a headline I would not click on.
That's interesting because it's a headline I would click on only because I recently got a hybrid car from work.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more.
Just started this week. I got a Hyundai, what's it called? Ioniq.
Oh.
And it's hybrid, so it uses gas and power, and it has nowhere near the range that a Tesla has. I mean, I think it gets 30 miles on the charge.
Is it a plug-in hybrid, or is it just an old?
It is a plug. Both. It's a plug-in, but it will charge if you the way it brakes. There's settings and stuff. It's nothing phenomenal, but I've put over almost 500 miles on the car in a week because I had a couple of long trips this week, and I have yet to put a drop of gas into it.
Fascinating.
I've managed to charge it at the office a couple of times, and between that and the self-charge, I guess it's the fuel economy has been ridiculous. I'm gonna try to drag it out a whole other I'm gonna try not to gas it up this week.
See how far you can take it.
See how far I can take it. According to the range, I have 200 miles left.
Fascinating.
So if I go nowhere other than the office this week, which is 30 miles each way, theoretically, if I charge it when I get to the office and then I charge it at home at night, I should not have to put gas in the car this week.
Are you able to charge it at home? Do you have it set up to do that?
I can plug it into a regular wall outlet.
At 120?
Yeah, it just takes twice the amount of time to charge.
Sure. Okay, but that's convenient, though, because it's a functional extension cord at that point, right?
Yeah, it comes with the little adapter, and then at work we have the actual proper 240 volt because one of the bosses has a Tesla.
And that'll be flam.
Yes.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's actually quite spectacular. So, okay, well, cool. I see. Here's the thing. I would love an electric car for various reasons. My problem with an electric car is purely that I enjoy road trips and do them fairly often, and at current there is no purely electric car that has the range to get me where I want to go and back without long periods of charging. Even with Tesla's fast charging system, the supercharger, 30 to 40 minutes to charge the vehicle is still outside of my realm of understanding. When you're trying to get to a place by a certain time, an extra half hour or 40 minutes doesn't quite jive. Especially the places that I go tend to be off the beaten path and don't have that network.
Right.
Like if I were driving to California or Las Vegas or something, along the interstates, then there'd be plenty of spots to stop and top off or whatever. But other than that, I mean, the way my home is set up, I could very easily put a 40 amp 240 volt receptacle in my carport and have no problem charging. But I also don't drive anymore, so.
Well, this is true. Different times, but that's Jonathan's primary complaint. Is he loves the car, but he said it's very limited for what he likes to take apparently trips up to like the Finger Lakes and stuff like that. And he says for that they have a Prius as well. So the Prius because obviously it makes more sense.
If you have the ability to have two vehicles that you could do that with, then that's the way to go. I cannot justify having two automobiles.
Right.
To pull that off. Although if I could, I would.
Yeah, but to commute from work, he uses the Tesla almost exclusively because I think it's 100 miles you get charged to a charge, something like that.
It's actually a rather interesting sort of thing because my day-to-day work world is entirely centered around battery storage, solar panels, electric cars, renewable energy, and the future of all that. And I've been trying to figure that whole thing out. And Tesla is my number one competitor.
Interesting.
In that space. And so while I have been relatively successful, I'm not Tesla.
Right.
And so I'm trying to figure that whole game out. All right, well, let's click on this article that I would never click on that you would.
trying to find the article. I can't find it on my end.
I have to disable my ad blocker in order to read this article. So let's do that. So I suppose I'll read it. The amount of advertisements that are coming up now are making it impossible to read the article. See, let's do this. Let's sidebar this for a moment. You make money with advertisements, and that's how you stay in business.
Yeah.
But you make your ads so intrusive to the content that you're providing that the content is a little drop in the bucket compared to all of the ads, and then you ruin the experience, in my opinion. So people like me get ad blocker, so that way they're not bombarded with the nonsense. I would rather just pay these people money to not have ads.
To leave you alone?
Yeah, I'll read your article. Here's $1. Let me read your article without ads, because that's probably more revenue than they'll make based on my click anyway. Which is interesting, because
I clicked on the article and I don't have any ads.
Huh. Is it through Forbes?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the monumental Tesla battery day last week clearly wasn't as monumental for some as they had expected. The day after the much anticipated event, Tesla shares dropped by nearly 10%. This seems to be partly because the million-mile battery wasn't part of the presentation. The fickle investment community was hoping for an easily understood, revolutionary announcement like an EV battery that will do 1 million miles without needing replacement. What they got instead was a series of incremental improvements based on technologies that were hard to understand and not very well explained. But the tail end of the battery day presentation was incredibly significant and foretells the final nail in the coffin of the traditional car industry based around fossil fuel propulsion. Without much more than a single slide and a couple of sentences, Elon Musk delivered the punchline revealing where all the minor improvements up until that point in the presentation were leading. Numerically, it was a 56% reduction in battery costs, but then he explained that this would enable a $25,000 Tesla with fully autonomous capability. So that's where the lead is. They put that in there nicely. In atypical style for Musk, he didn't make any bolder claims about what this car would be able to deliver, but we can read between the lines. Can we? Musk infamously canceled the standard range version of the Model Y, stating that under 250 miles EPA range was too low, and subsequently that 300 miles of range was the new normal. From this, we assume that the $25,000 car will have at least 300 miles of EPA range, which would mean well over 300 miles with the more frugal whatever WLTP test is. You can also be certain this car will be fast because there's no such thing as a slow Tesla. So too, it will definitely do a 0 to 60 mile per hour in under 6 seconds. There have already been rumors of Tesla planning a small hatchback, subcompact vehicle with a design teased back in January, and this will likely be the format of the new car given the price. It's a fairly lengthy article. Shall I continue reading?
I mean, I guess if you want to discuss it, or we could just peruse
the $25,000 tag doesn't initially sound that impressive. When you combine an internal combustion engine Toyota Corolla in the USA starting at under $20,000. But this isn't the market the car will be aimed at. The Tesla Model 3 starts at just under $40,000 in the US and was clearly aimed at the luxury mid-sized market optimized by the BMW 3 Series, which its sales have annihilated in the USA. Look at that. The new $25,000 car, shall we call it the Model 2? Everyone else's will be aimed at another European icon, the hugely popular VW Golf, which represents quality at an affordable price. You can pick one of those up for just over $23,000. Obviously, the Model 2, in quotes, is still a theory, but Musk was talking about the new battery enhancements being able to deliver the price enabling a Tesla EV at this level in 1.5 to 3 years' time. So in and around 3 years, you could well have the choice of a well-built German fossil fuel car or a semi-premium EV with over 300 miles of range and much faster performance. That will then go on to be much, much cheaper to run because even in the USA, electric miles are considerably less expensive than fossil fuel ones. In the UK, where petrol and diesel prices are astronomical, the running cost differential will be huge. Somebody who is not American wrote this article just because of the fact that they said petrol. Teslas tend to come across to the UK at around the same price, numerically in pounds as they are in dollars. The Model 3, which is $40,000 in the US, is around 40,000 pounds in the UK, which actually means it's way more expensive in the UK. But the VW Golf is also numerically about the same. Tesla's Model 2 would probably be around 25,000 pounds in the same ballpark. Okay, so now we're just diving into car price competitiveness. Which would you choose for $25,000? A Tesla Model 2 EV or a VW Golf with a conventional fossil fuel engine? No longer will the argument hold that I can't buy the EV because it's too expensive, because they will be the same price. You could still say 300 miles is not enough to get me all the way from New York to Los Angeles or London to Edinburgh in one go, but who really does that? Well, interesting. In 3 years from now, recharging will be much more ubiquitous. Two, that's a very, very poorly written sentence. And it's hardly a trial for Tesla owners already. When you can buy an EV with over 300 miles of range that is faster and equipped with better technology than an internal combustion engine VW Golf, as well as being much cheaper to run, only groundless anti-electric prejudice will stop you. There won't be any real reason to buy a car that runs on fuel derived from oil and gas anymore. So, okay, I have all sorts of problems with this article. First of all, I believe it is poorly written.
Go.
Secondly, it took literally until the last half of the last sentence to come to the conclusion that the headline had us click on for. The end, because I almost forgot what the headline was about until just then. The whole idea that gas and oil will be dead as a result of this theoretical car that doesn't exist. It's a nonsense article. I'm displeased by it.
Of course you are.
Well,
I feel like that's how you are with most articles.
I consider journalism to be a very important part of the fabric of our society, and it has eroded to a point over the last decade and a half to 2 decades that I believe are intolerable and dangerous. And although this article has nothing to do with anything real, it follows the path of nonsense and poorly written that just shouldn't be the case. And I got one more. I also read a lot of automotive journalism. Like I spend a lot, for some reason, like I'm not a big car guy, but I really enjoy automotive journalism. So I read all the articles and things. And this is not automotive journalism. This is somebody who doesn't know how to write, trying to write something for automotive journalism, but at the same time being sensational and nonsensical. All right, you go
now. Okay, that's fair. I mean, look, yes, it's stupid to think that this $25,000 car means the end of fuel, and that's ridiculous. That said, if there was a $25,000 all-electric option out there, I think for a daily commuter whose commute is, average, I say 30 to 40 miles, it's a viable option, man.
Oh, totally.
And depending on where you live in the country, I mean, I don't know what gas prices are like in Colorado, but like right now they're pretty low out here. It's like $1.95.
Yeah, something like that.
So it's not unreasonable, but a couple of years back when it was $3-4 almost, you could spend $400-500 a month in gas.
Well, okay, so straight away.
The thing I don't know is no one's ever really, or at least I've never found like an actual calculation of what, say, a daily charge costs on your electric bill.
I have seen those calculations.
That when I start charging this thing here, just out of curiosity.
I wonder, actually, do you know how much you currently pay per kilowatt hour?
I do. Rate? I mean, I don't know off the top of my head, but I do. I can look it up on my app.
So the national average per kilowatt hour is about 12 cents. And that's it varies wildly where you are in the country. So New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Jersey are going to be more expensive than North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, etc., Virginia. And the same is true on the West Coast. So California's fuel prices are quite a bit, electric prices are quite a bit higher. Here in Colorado, I pay 11 cents a kilowatt hour. So I'm just below the national average. And that's fairly cheap. As a global comparison, and I don't have the actual numbers for the global utility rates, but Europe in its entirety pays 3 to 4 times what we pay per kilowatt hour. In fact, California is less expensive by a good margin as the most expensive energy in the country than Europe is. So, and that's true of fuel prices too. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that without any further data, even in California where energy prices are at their highest, if you charge at the appropriate times, like at night, overnight, like in the middle of the night, it will still be cheaper than fuel.
Safe bet.
So, okay. I could pick apart this article probably for another 10 minutes or so, but it's kind of pointless. The article itself is poorly written, but I totally agree with the idea that even at $30,000, like actually $30,000, not including incentives, but like just the price of the car is brings electric vehicles, an all-electric vehicle, to a more affordable level for the majority of Americans. And the majority of Americans that commute in any way, shape, or form are doing so within 30 to 40 miles of their home. And a 300-mile range is plenty. That's
absolutely,
that's 10 days, or no, if you're doing it each way, that's 4 to 5 days between charges for all intent and purposes. That's huge.
It is. I mean, even with this hybrid that I have, I mean, I'm telling you, I'm going to see how far I can go without putting gas in it. If I can fill up once a month, I mean, that's a huge, as a company vehicle, it's a huge cost savings for them. I mean, with the other car I had, I was filling up maybe 2-3 times a month. And that was a relatively new car that had pretty decent gas mileage.
Well, I mean, the volatility of fuel prices are such that even if they're low now, it doesn't mean they'll be low later.
Right.
Because, I mean, heck, what are we now? It's like 10 years ago. Fuel prices were nearly $5 a gallon in some places.
Yeah.
Which is more akin to what it was in Europe at the time. So, yeah, no, it's and it's interesting, right? Because I shouldn't say up until now, because we're still doing it. Fuel prices dictate the types of motor vehicles that manufacturers make. Right, and so the boom of pickup trucks and SUVs, and if you look back at the 90s and Hummers and all the the big giant excursions, the giant vehicles that just guzzled fuel. The idea was that fuel's inexpensive, so it doesn't matter. Americans want big cars, let's make them. And when fuel prices got expensive, people freaked out and they started buying little cars. And all of a sudden, the Prius was super popular, and then fuel prices got cheap again, and now we all drive SUVs whether we want to or not. So I don't remember what my point was there, but my point is that the Tesla is not trying to make that argument anymore, which I like. They've like ignored, I guess, fuel prices because they don't need to pay attention to them too much, but they've ignored that as a concept, and they've just figured out or tried to figure out how to make a less expensive electric car that has this range of quality, this 300-mile range thing. And then I wonder how that's going to change how people drive, or what kinds of cars people drive, because I don't like SUVs, but I know a lot of people do.
Yeah, I mean, look, I have an SUV, and it's useful, but if it was just, I mean, I have a family, so it's useful in the sense that I got to pile kids in with a bunch of crap in the back. You need the space. For one person or a 2-person family, it's a bit overkill. Unless you do a lot of traveling and camping, and I mean, but even that, unless you're taking canoes somewhere, and
you're not wrong, but okay, I don't know about you. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, my mother drove a 80-something, 83 or whatever it was, Honda Civic. And if we think that Honda Civics today are small, look back to what they were like in the early 80s. And it worked fine. Like, I don't remember complaining about how big the back seat was when I was 4.
True.
And granted, it was only me, but I knew plenty of people who were driving around in nothing more than a sedan back then with 2, 3, 4 kids, and everybody was fine. So I wonder,
I suppose you're right.
Are we just that much fatter than we were?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah,
have you looked around? Have you gone out and looked around?
I don't go out anymore, my friend. I live in my enclave.
If you live near a Walmart, I suggest a trip one day and just take a quick look around.
I got to tell you, I went to Minnesota. I don't know, maybe it was 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. It was Labor Day, whenever Labor Day was, beginning of September, right? I had to drive Beth's mom back home because she had been with Beth for like 6-7 months, something like that. So it was a job. Like, it was get up early, drive all day, 13 hours, land in Minnesota, turn around, do the same thing. But holy cow, Nebraska has the largest human beings I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just Nebraska. I mean, I've traveled a lot in the country and I've seen some things, but Nebraska seems to stand out to me as the most bulbous state.
The new Nebraska state motto, the most bulbous state.
Come to Nebraska. We're bulbous.
We're bulbous.
A bulbous bunch. Yeah. Well,
no, I think it's most of the country, man. I mean,
oh, that's true.
We're not the healthiest bunch.
No, we're not. Well, there's lots of things about us that aren't the most anything, except we are the most unreasonable.
But we won't wear a mask.
We are the most unreasonable.
Yes.
We are the most ridiculous. We are the most selfish. There's your American exceptionalism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fattest.
And the fattest. We are the most fattest. Although I think actually Mexico is not that far behind us.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if the actual numbers, but I've heard some things over the last couple of years that the obesity rate in Mexico has increased like markedly over the last like 10 years or so.
Since I'm on the Googles, let's see what the fattest country in the world is.
Well, I mean, it's going to be us, isn't it? It's got to be us.
It is not.
Oh.
It's a country I've never heard of.
Okay. That's weird.
Nauru, Nauru, is the most obese country with 61% of its population having a BMI higher than 30.
Nauru. Okay, is that a Pacific island?
The island country of Nauru. Where is Nauru?
That's got to be a Pacific. That's got to be like adjacent to American Samoa.
Samoans are a fat bunch.
I actually I work with a Samoan, and we refer to him. Actually, he refers to himself as the large Samoan.
Yeah, most Samoans are relatively large, but I feel like they're large, but they're like muscular large. If that makes sense.
Yes, they've got a thickness to them that isn't necessarily just fat.
They're like football player large.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where's this country?
I don't know. I just clicked on a map now. I'm just looking. United States, obesity rate is 36.2%.
Okay, so this country of Nauru, which does not seem to... Country in Oceania. Okay, so Nauru. I'm going to find out where Nauru is because...
Mexico's only 28%.
Okay, Nauru couldn't be farther away from anything. It is in the deep South Pacific, north of Vanuatu and the Solomon Islands, and to the east of Papua New Guinea.
Interesting.
It's part of the Federated States of Micronesia. I don't know. It's interesting, right? Because here it's literally... I wish we could show people. It is a tiny little island.
I'm sure there's no McDonald's there.
In the middle of nowhere.
A lot of fish.
Yeah, but
Vietnam. Vietnam's only 2% obesity rate. Good for them.
The Nauru Phosphate Corporation is located on the southern half of the tiny island. Okay, well, let's figure out how big this island is. Measure distance. So at its longest point, the island of Nauru is roughly 3.5 miles long. And at its widest point, and this is from shore to shore, it would seem here. I would like to remove this point. Oh dear, I've ruined it. Hold on. Measurement. Distance. Clickety click. At its widest point, it is 2.9 miles. So it's just a little bit longer than it is wide, but only by
So it's 3 miles by 2 miles?
Yeah, roughly 3.5 by.
So it's like 5 people live there, and there's one fat guy. I mean,
well, so actually, you know what? That is without knowing anything more, you just kind of illuminated something about statistics.
What's
right?
that?
Well, so if there's five people on the island, and one guy's fat, they have a 20% obesity rate or whatever. Yeah, so like
exactly.
So it's meaningless.
Right.
It's a meaningless statistic.
Yeah, that's a dumb stat.
Okay, so well, I feel like I've learned something about Nauru.
I want to know what the population is.
Okay, well, I don't know.
I need to know how many people live on this tiny, tiny island. Because 3 by 2, I mean, it's ridiculously small.
My property is like a third the size of this island. Something like. Okay, Nauru. Let's go to Wikipedia. Let's see. Let's go to say. So it's 58% comprised of Nauruan, 26% other Pacific Islander. There's 8% white, 8% Chinese, which, by the way, is an indicator of future changes. Every time you see a percentage of Chinese on an island or in a country, you can start
population
to
is
assume
10,824.
Interesting. I'm reading 10,670 as of 2018.
I've got population as of 2020. Seems they've had a population explosion in 2 years.
Their GDP as of 2017 is $160 million. That's quite low. But there's only 10,000 people on the island. The fact that 10,000 people are able to produce $160 million per year in GDP is quite.
So that means that 6,000 out of 10 are fat.
But like to what degree, right? And why?
Well, it says the Nauru obesity problem, like many other South Pacific countries, is possibly attributed to Western settlers who taught them to fry their foods and import less healthy food, abandoning their traditional cultivation, preparation, and preserving skills.
Interesting. Oh, they look Samoan. They have a very Samoan-like face. I'm going to have to send this to John. He's the Samoan. I wonder if he knows things about Nauru. Oh. There's a let's see here. The most densely populated, or the most highly populated, is the Denigomodu area, with a population of 1,804, encompassing 17 villages. So they got fat because we brought them fried foods?
I guess so.
All right. Well, good for them. They can work it out.
Fascinated by this island.
Oh, yeah. Look at the picture of Nauruan residents walking around. Are among them. Here we go. They are amongst the most obese people in the world. It's also have the highest level of type 2 diabetes. More than 40% of the population is affected. Other significant dietary-related problems on Nauru include kidney disease and heart disease. So, yeah, that's great. So how the heck did we get here? Oh, because SUVs are for fat people.
That's right.
So going back to your original search, where does the United States fall on that list?
We are. Let's see. 15.
We're the 15th fattest country?
Yeah.
Who's ahead of us?
Mostly the Pacific Islands. We've got American Samoa, Tokelau, Nauru, Cook Islands, Palau, the Marshall Islands,
Oh, dear.
Tuvalu, Niue, Tonga, Samoa, Kiribati, Micronesia, Aruba, Kuwait, the Cayman Islands, and then the good old USA.
Wait. Kuwait, like the Middle Eastern country of Kuwait?
Yes. 37.9%. We are at 36.2.
And then who's below us?
The British Virgin Islands, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bermuda, Guam, French Polynesia, Curacao, Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, Libya, Turkey, Lebanon, Egypt.
Lebanon.
Yeah, you guys are at 32%.
I'm a Lebanese. It's probably not anymore. Half the country is destitute now. Okay. The thing that I noticed from that list you just read off, is that the United States is amongst almost no developed nations in these statistics, with the closest ones being oil-rich Arabian Peninsula countries.
Yeah. The closest developed nation to us is Canada. And they're way down on the list. They're at 29%. Then you get Australia, Mexico, Argentina, South Africa, Chile. UK is at 27. It's another developed country.
There's a correlation there, and I didn't expect to think about this, but also didn't expect to be looking at a list of the fattest countries. The correlation there is that time and time again, whether it comes to education, healthcare, fatness, we tend to fall in line with no other developed country. Like we're out in the boonies with the Pacific Islanders and Saudi Arabia. Like, what are we?
We're a stereotypical dumb fat American.
Well, but like if you think about it though, our closest allies, politically, diplomatically, and militarily, are as far away from us in all of these statistics as they can be.
Yeah, so let's see who else. Germany's at 22%. France is down at 21%. Who else? Italy at 19%. Seems like the Europeans are a fit bunch.
Yeah, which is always rather interesting to me because the Europeans eat really, really well. Like, they have a high quality of foodstuffs that they eat. And,
well, I feel like they eat less processed crap.
Well, I would suspect that they do. But I would also suspect that their culture keeps them in some sort of sufficiently traditional routine of eating where they don't do things like sit on the couch with a bag of potato chips.
True.
Which I am as guilty of, and I'm a thin man. We're both thin men. For those of us who are listening and don't know, you're listening to two tall, thin men talk about the other fat people out there. Although I gained a couple of pounds in the last month.
I have not. I'm on my summer downfall.
What does that mean, downfall? What do you
I
say?
always lose about 5 pounds every summer.
Oh.
I fluctuate, and then I put on my winter weight.
I fluctuate
go up and down.
too. Where are you sitting right now?
In the garage. After I answered that, I realized what you were asking.
It's more enjoyable that you didn't realize it first.
Yeah.
Yeah. How much do you weigh, Alex?
Last I checked, I'm at about 183.
Interesting. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm at 190 on average.
Yeah, my highest was in 192, 93, and that was like in January.
Oh, well, heck, like about a year and a half ago, I hit over 200. It was my first time over 200.
Yeah, I've yet to hit that. I don't think I ever will.
Godspeed.
Trying.
All right, well, let's look here. I think we did a thing. How do you feel about News Roulette?
I like it.
I think I like News Roulette too.
We started in one spot and we went to a completely different spot, and I liked it. I like it a lot.
And I like that too. Let's wrap it around a little bit and go back to where we came. We clicked on an article about a Tesla car that is being theorized and poorly written about in a Forbes article. The real story is that Tesla has developed a new battery technology, and that new battery technology will allow for longer range batteries with lower cost, which is overall a very good incremental change in battery technology, which may turn into more affordable electric cars in the future. I would like, perhaps next time, to have a more in-depth discussion about energy in the United States. How do you feel about that?
I'm game.
Okay. I also like this News Roulette business because it works. It leads to conversation, and that's what we're doing. Opinionated conversation.
Conversation.
With
That's
Alex and Mark. Isn't it what everybody does?
Not really.
Oh. What then? What do they do?
I don't feel like people don't converse much.
I would argue that people converse too much, or perhaps they speak too much. Maybe they don't converse. That's a whole other conversation, isn't it?
Perhaps.
The overwhelming discourse of America.
Indeed.
Thanks for joining us on today's podcast.